Hello, everyone. I'm sorry you lost me briefly. I am fighting with the internet today. One of those things. And the internet just loves to go offline, especially when it's Africam showtime. So I like to think that when we do have the opportunity to be together, not only is it fantastic because we get to spend time with wonderful animals like this and all of you, but it's like the internet world didn't want it to happen, but yet we are here. So please bear with me if you lose me briefly. I do have some fail safes in the mix, but they're not so safe. Anyway, welcome everybody to the Africam show. We're starting off here at Founders Lodge, and we have a beautiful, beautiful rhinoceros. And I think for all of us, seeing the rhinos here at Founders is probably one of our favorite things. I love very much that the soil here is so nice and red. Thank you. That the rhinos carry it on I was about to say on their bottoms because I'm watching this elephant scratch itself on the well. But on their backs and on their skin, so you can almost see the redness. And the elephants do that too. And you can see that in this area there isn't that really iron oxide rich soil. So the elephants are pretty average soiled color. That was a nice little scratch. Thank you, mister. And that's one thing that I never quite understand about elephants. And we're back to founders. Kirst just had to show us that little scratch. And I was saying that's one thing I never quite get about elephants is that they will scratch and and drink and all sorts, sometimes from the same area, but then be very fussy at other times. So now we can see that there's a little calf here. So it must be one of our mums. I remember, we must just have a look if this one has what is the word I'm looking for? Not a tracker, not quite a collar, but a wristband on one of its legs, and then we'll know who it is exactly. But I've also forgotten to remind you that we're live and interactive, so please send through questions and comments. I've gotten so many already. Amber Co is waving hello with coffee. And thanks to everybody. Thank you, Amber Co, for always being on board. Oh no, Mindy, did your workplace forget to block the chat again? You're very happy about it, that you're able to chat. So please do. Thanks for jumping on board as well, Mindy. Well, I know you're always here. It's just a matter of whether work allows you to be here or not. Zao, you say namaste. You're having panha, drink tangy, sweet, and refreshing. Very nice. I've never heard of that. But tangy, sweet, and refreshing is always a good combination. And Jack De Boer, you say morning, guys. Dear NC says good morning, all. You ready with your coffee? Oh, my pleasure for being here. It's been a really busy year already. And it's getting even busier. So I'm grateful for the shows that I do get to go to do with all of you because you all are kind of my nature home. If that makes sense. One of the places where it all started. So I'm always grateful to be able to come back. And with Jean Gale, you say hello from Seattle-ish. Where are you, if not in Seattle, but Seattle-ish? That you're here with coffee, cherry bread, and some spring sun. Oh, it's so nice to know it's warming up for you all. Here it's starting to get a little chilly. I, in fact, have the heater out right now. Just to take the chill out of the air. Casper's Third Ghost, you say good morning and good afternoon to me. Thank you very much. You've also got some hot coffee. You know, I knew that you'd all come with your coffee and I considered making myself one, but then my internet decided to sabotage me and then I didn't have a chance to make one. MG Leopard Spots, you say good morning and afternoon. You're looking forward to and wonderful knowledge sharing. Absolutely. And we'll get right into it after we go through these uh, these hellos. And then Bridget McKinney, you say hi, Trishala. Hello, Bridget. Jan Powers, you say hi, everyone. You're a bit late again, but you're happy to be back. And a hello to me. Hi, Jan. Thank you for being back. And better late than never. April R, you say good morning, all from Connecticut. You're enjoying your glass of cherry iced tea at the show. Ooh, cherry iced tea sounds good, but I need something warm today. So, Kes says that she thinks that this is Margaret. I think it would be really nice if we could just see um, her legs and, of course, that little one. She's looking quite weary. She's looking around, but it's not, she doesn't seem to be on high alert or anything like that. But just because she does have a youngster with her, it means that she is going to generally be more weary. And you can also see that there's a lot of movement in the bushes. And the vegetation here in the Eastern Cape is it's kind of dense and quite thick because it has to resist the movement of the wind quite a bit. And even still, you can see that those bushes are moving. So that's another reason that her ears are going to be moving around a lot. Because the other thing that the wind does is that it moves sound. So many animals get a little bit more cautious when it is windy because they can't tell direction and things like that as much. Oh, up you go. Oh, I hope you'll be able to move so we'll be able to see them. With the view of this camera, they can move out quite quickly. And unfortunately, we didn't get to really see if there was a bracelet on mum there. But Mandy, which is the other female that has a calf as well, she has an ear notch on the left ear, which is obviously a little bit difficult to see here. But I think I'm correct in saying that Mandy is the one that doesn't have a bracelet. And it's in fact Margaret that has a bracelet, but Kirst will just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. So for this young calf, I mean it's already looking quite nice and bulky, right? So you might be thinking, well, if she is being so weary, what is she being weary about, and what could potentially be a pred for this young calf? Ultimately, it's basically lions. Um, any other predator is likely to uh, just be very, very lucky and, of course, be an opportunist. There have been reports of like hyenas, packs of clans of hyenas actually being able to take down baby elephants. I didn't actually see it, but I was there for the aftermath of one of or such an incident in in Madikwe, actually. And that was really something to behold. Luckily, by the time that I had reached that sighting, which is not far, it was actually pretty close to the lodge, the elephant calf was not alive, but the hyenas were able to really, feed themselves well. But even still, even if it is unlikely that animals will, or these little calves might be taken by anything other than a pride of lions, doesn't mean that the mums and or the families are not going to be fiercely defensive of them. But now we are at Safari Hook, and it almost looks like there's a python's head coming over this camera. I think it might just need a wipe. It's been a while since we've been at Safari Hook, right? It is so nice to see. And it's also changed quite a lot. It's very, very bushy. I remember it being pretty, kind of bare. But all the water over the wet season that's just passed has really transformed it. Kirst, do you think it's a grasshopper? Okay. So you're saying that maybe a couple minutes ago it wasn't there, which means that indeed is something alive, perhaps. Grass is bad, not a bad shout. I don't know. Does anybody else have any ideas what this could be that's on the camera? I'm seeing a lot of movement in the water, which is always something I really like to see. Because if there's movement in the water, it generally means that there's a lot going on in the water, but also movement means that there's lots of oxygenation happening. Now, when there isn't enough oxygen in the water, it is good for some bacteria, the bacteria that we call anoxic, so they don't actually need oxygen. But that can also present a problem because if there's if especially if there are bacteria who don't need oxygen, have nothing to do with oxygen, they can kind of take over the environment, and often to the exclusion of other bacteria. And then there's another problem that could potentially happen, and I'm talking about problems when there's still water, is that you get an overgrowth of bacteria that consume oxygen. And when that happens, they can consume all of the oxygen, or very much of the oxygen, and that can be deadly for everything else that lives in that water body. So seeing movement always makes me feel like it's nice and fresh. So we saw some movement on this shadowy figure that we have here. Oof, but those are some really long spindly legs. I think it's a spider. Are we going to try and I don't think we'll be able to focus on it. Now, coming back to these water bodies, so there's this fine balance between kind of there being enough oxygen to run and making sure that there isn't an overgrowth of any kind of bacteria that is going to cause an imbalance. Now, one of the wonderful things about hippos is that as they move through the water, they're creating movement, right? So that means that they're disturbing bacteria, they're kicking up sediment, they can move any kind of growth that's blocking sunlight, all those kinds of things. But also, because they live a semi-aquatic life, when they move out in the evenings and they go and feed, and then they come back to the water, if you've watched hippos and you've watched the cameras, you would know that they often poop around the water and in the water. And this is really important because they're bringing nutrients that otherwise would not be able to come to this water. They're bringing terrestrial nutrients right into the water. And again, it's also a fine balance because if there's too much of it, oh my gosh, speaking of too much, so many rhinos. Just to conclude there, if there's too much hippo poop in the water, then it becomes too anoxic, so too little oxygen around. But if there isn't enough, then there isn't as much biodiversity in the water. So hippos do a lot. Oh, wow, this is a really big group of rhinos. And the only other time I've seen a big group of rhino like this has been in smaller closed reserves. So areas the like Baluli, for example, that's open to other reserves. And so animals can move freely for quite a distance. That whole greater Kruger area. There's these smaller private reserves on the outskirts of the Kruger National Park or just beyond its boundary. And that links up to the Transfrontier Park, which then includes parts of Zimbabwe and Mozambique. So that's a lot of space. And I think that that's where we see animals behaving in the most natural way. So when I've seen groups of rhino together like this, I mean, to start off, seeing groups of rhino together is not that unusual, particularly if it's females and or a female and offspring. Sometimes there might be another female. Sometimes a female might adopt another offspring that's not quite a calf, but maybe just like an adolescent. So you might see, four, maybe five together. But seeing more than that together is quite unusual. And the only time I've seen is in smaller reserves where it's sort of as if, yeah, are forced to socialize with each other because it's not like they can just walk away and get their own territory, right? So you see different kinds of behavior in smaller fenced reserves, which I find quite interesting. I don't think it's a bad thing or it's a good thing. It's just a thing. It's just a matter of fact that those types of circumstances can influence animal behavior. But let's head over and have a look at a hippo because we were chatting about them earlier. There we go. Hello, hippo. And I want to tell you about something else interesting that I saw at a different closed reserve. And this was Mabula, which is not very far from Johannesburg, a really beautiful reserve. And they have a herd of elephants. But because they don't have a lot of elephants, and obviously because they're a smaller reserve, they're a smaller fenced reserve, so they can't have a lot of elephants. If they have too many elephants, basically the whole reserve will be eaten or smashed. But so what ended up happening is that the elephants at the reserve, I think there were five in total, so five cows and one bull. Now, ordinarily, elephant bulls don't they may associate with the cows every now and then, but they don't live with the cows in the herd. But here at Bula now, because it is small fenced reserve, and when I say small, I don't mean it's not tiny. There's plenty. If you go there, you'll see, oh, there's plenty of space. But in terms of elephants, this is as much as the reserve can hold for the elephants to be comfortable. But they just sort of they all hang out together. It's as if the elephant bull, is just part of the herd. I haven't seen too many differences in hippo behavior though. And I think that's because hippos are absolutely reliant on the semi-aquatic lifestyle. It's not like they can choose not to be in the water if they want to. But I think that has a big influence on on their unchanging behavior no matter where you go. Because if there's a hippo, well, if there's a water hole, then the hippos are very happy in that water hole. And again, hippos are one of those animals, the large herbivores, just like elephants, just like rhinos, and they there can't be too many of them because there's only a certain carrying capacity that a piece of land has. Maybe you say when you first started watching these cams, we couldn't show rhinos. Absolutely. Do you remember that? And we couldn't even talk about them. So it's been a lot of progress in that regard. Absolutely. I mean, it's been progress all round. Like, I'm able to speak about rhinos, show rhinos, see rhinos, and I think it's such a good sign because it means that we can familiarize people with rhinos, educate them, and those are important, but I think the most important thing is for people to feel like they can um like connect to that animal, whether it's thinking it's cute, liking the way it eats, liking shape, whatever it is. Just spending time with an animal means that we can learn to appreciate them. And that is so important. And I always used to feel so bad for rhinos. I mean, I remember, oh, I can't remember which cam we were on, but it was some years ago. And I saw something, and then the camera moved quickly, and I was, talking to you all, and I was like, oh, what was that? Something was moving. Can we go back? And then Kirst messaged me, and she's like, that was a rhino. We can't go back. But in some places, it is um cautious not to show them. But in places like Founders, where they're so proud of their rhino population and their rhino protection, it's such a great example. Sorry, Hippo, I haven't been giving you a lot of attention because I've just been running my mouth as usual. Oh, how wonderful. So, Kirst has just told me that this hippo is called Moto Moto. Very nice. I think is that the very handsome hippo in Madagascar? I think it is. Moto Moto. Well, he seems to have a lot of personality, and he is the resident hippo here at Hwange. A couple resident hippos that I know have a lot of personality. I mean, there's nobody else in the water with him, but he's showing off, he's moving around. I like to think of it as exercising. Andy, that's a really interesting question. So you say that you've been asking about that darker mongoose at Tembe, and you know that we've been saying that it's a white-tailed mongoose, but could it be a Meller's mongoose? Is this the white-tailed mongoose that we think is melanistic? Is this the one you're talking about that doesn't have the white tip? Everyone's got names now. I like it because it's like, yes, that's Shadow. Um, I'm just thinking. I mean, Miller's mongooses are also pretty big. Um, and they do have a variable coat, so it could be dark, pretty dark as Shadow. I mean, it could. Only thing that is putting me off is just thinking about their distribution. And I know that they Miller's mongoose exist basically in South Africa, just on the northeastern point. So like just northeastern KwaZulu-Natal. So, in a similar place that Tembe is. So I mean, I guess we'd have to have a closer look and preferably be able to find some very distinct sign, some kind of distinct characteristic. The problem is that generally, I mean, when we think about them, we know that white-tailed mongooses are larger, and we know that Miller's mongooses are generally darker. Oh, hello. This is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful um Nile monitor that we have here. I'm just going to have to close the door quickly and I'll be back to you. Sorry, everyone. Have you ever noticed, well, I suppose I have, that somehow everyone, particularly the garden, um, like to sweep and leaf blower around Africam showtime. And today was super quiet, so I thought nobody was going to come. But here they are. Anyway, back to Bella's mongooses. So Kirst also said that, and I have seen it too, that the darker one, Shadow, has been seen with the white-tailed mongoose. And that's not usual behavior for two different types of nocturnal solitary mongooses to be hanging out with each other. But that's not a bad shout, Andy, and I think that it's definitely worth just double checking, having a look. Anyway, now we are at Katmai Pan, and we have a really lovely Nile monitor. It looks quite big too, right? And have a look at that throat section. At the moment, it's just swallowing. It's not trying to inflate it, but they can inflate it and look really, really threatening. I really like these animals. Um, they're quite cute as well. There are a couple of, um, these kind of not quite a game lodge or a safari lodge, but these farms where you might see, or game farms, so not actual, agricultural farms, but in South Africa we call those kind of nature areas where you can go and stay and stuff. Also, game farms. Usually they are ex-farms that have been converted into like a nature conservation area. Anyway, I was staying at one in KwaZulu-Natal. Uh, Many years, probably like 8 years ago or something like that. And I had the fright of my life because I was standing, it was like these cottages that were over a dam, and people could fish in the dam and stuff like that. And I was just standing on the grass there, and I got the shock of my life because monitor lizards, these monitors, just like was next to my feet. And because they were dark against the green of the grass, it's it just kind of, gave me quite a fright, and then it got a fright, and then it moved quickly, and so did I. But they are very, very cute. And it is, this is a really big one. I know we don't have reference. Look at the you can just sort of see the back. And look at the how it's separated by the spine, and there's a heavy section on both sides, heavy muscular section. That becomes more obvious, kind of the depression at the spine and then the bulkiness in each side. That becomes more obvious the bigger they are. So this looks like a big one. Bridget, you also say it is huge. It is huge. Mindy, that is a very interesting question that I don't know the answer to. You're asking or you're talking about the monitor's gait because they do have kind of an unusual one, and it's quite similar to the gait of a crocodile. And you're wondering if it's due to the position of its legs, its body length, its tail length, or a combination of all of these things. I think it has to do with its center of gravity as well, like how close to the ground it is, combined with how long it is. Oh, blacksmith lapwing, playing with your life there. Actually, now that we see the blacksmith lapwing, it's not as massive as we thought. Still pretty big though. So, Mindy, I think that if we think about their lifestyle, they're semi-aquatic, they're in and around water, so having long legs wouldn't be helpful to them. So, having a long body with that laterally positioned, compressed tail is a lot more useful. But then when they come out of the water, they still need some legs, right, to move around. So they end up with these shorter legs. But they're also pretty heavy. So this is the longest, or we'll say biggest, lizard in Africa. So they can get pretty long, like half. Some records say 2 meters. The weight range is it's fluctuates a lot. Some say there's specimens that are adults that are 8 kgs, other that there's specimens that are 18 or 22 kgs that are adults. So it varies a lot, but it's always lengthy. Now, the rock monitor or bushveld monitor lizard, which is the other one that we get, that's quite stocky. So shorter, they only grow to as like upper limit of 1.5 meters, but a similar weight category. So much stockier. So with all that weight close to the ground, I think that that's what causes their interesting gait. And if we think about crocodiles, similar body plan, right? And a similar gait. I don't think the tail has too much to do with it because if you have a look at their tracks, you'll see that you'll actually see the tail in the tracks because the tail just kind of drags behind. I hope you can still hear me, and hopefully Kirst will tell me if she can still hear me. Hello. I hope so. Okay, there we go. But ah, that makes sense. I'm just so sensitive about internet issues right now. And Mindy, I think that your question is also so important because it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. What came first? Is the short legs as a result of all the weight, or is the weight a result of being in the water? And is the short legs a result of being in the water? It's just like we don't know what comes first. And that's the case for so many things. Um, and I think I've come to understand, I'm not sure how, it's not like something I've read or anything like that, but you come to understand that these things happen so gradually. It's almost like, um, if you're trying to, I don't know, knot or unknot a rope or something like that, and then you pull one side and then you have to do a little pull a little bit on the other side, like if you're detangling something. And so there's this constant little movement to refine what you're doing. And I feel like that's how adaptations work as well. Just a constant little pull here, and if you pull here, you're going to push there a little bit, even it out to balance it, to make sure everything's fine. And then before you know it, you've unraveled your messy bunch of knots. But by consistent little refinements. So which part did you pull to all come right again? It's important. Another consideration with Nile monitor lizards is the way that they hunt. Being close to the ground is important because they're often digging. It's also something to consider, but I love it because it's like you can know so much and not know so many things as well, which is one of my favorite things about about wildlife and natural spaces. Anyway, poor monitor lizard was just too hot for us. And it was, yeah, that was a wonderful view. But it got up and started moving, and then woof, we just couldn't take it. Broke the internet. So now we're over at King's Camp, and we've got some impala. I mean, cause yes, I would like to go back to Kataipan, which is where we had. Thank you. But then I felt bad for the impalas. But there we go. Oh, there we go. So this is that gate that Mindy is talking about. If you think about the tracks I was telling you about, see how they don't really lift their tails up. So they're just kind of dragging themselves. But you do very clearly see the claws when you're looking at their tracks. And you also very clearly see how they move. So as they're moving, because they're not taking steps like we are, they're kind of putting their hand or their front limb forward and then pushing and pushing. And you see the push stand as well. Bridget, you say it looked like it was scraping its tail across the dirt. It could have been, but it's when I first saw it, I thought its back legs are not moving as much as I'm used to, but now it looks normal. So maybe it was just trying to scratch under its tail or something like that. It kind of, when I first saw it move, it kind of reminded me of a hyena cub. And they have these very weak back legs. Sometimes they just look like they're dragging themselves with their front legs. But I think he was just a little awkward here. So many times I've been caught out thinking that an animal is injured when in fact they've just sat awkwardly. And I find this hilarious because it's something we do all the time. Oh, I slept funny, or I sat funny, and I can't walk properly, but then it goes away in a couple of seconds. Many animals we see out here go through the same thing. It's always worthwhile to watch a little while before having a panic. Oh, he's also got a little notch in uh in the tail there. I'm saying he, but I have no idea whether it's a male or female, and it is very difficult to tell them apart also. This was too cool. I do love them, monitor lizards. They're such fun. Well, we'll keep an eye here at Canada but we're going to head over to Oldonyo in East Africa in Kenya. Have a look at one of the elephants that have come down for a drink, especially for our last 5 minutes. Got to spend it with the elephant. Whoa, Oldonyo, you look so green. Sometimes elephants do my job for me. They just make the most wonderful sounds at a waterhole, and there's just no point speaking over them. This is the most beautiful thing I've seen all day. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's green, and there's an elephant having great time. Oh, thank you for that, Bundu. You say that's the same monitor lizard that has that unique hunting style with the frogs. The one that we actually would love to know how you know that. The Is it because of the notch in the tail? That was one really identifying thing for me. But I didn't notice that. Well, not that I didn't notice, I didn't pay attention to that when we were looking at the clip or anything. So if it is the same one, that is really cool. On that guy. That would be, oh, that would be so good. I would love to know whether he continues to hunt in that way. Especially, I mean, the best time to look would be when we've had some rain, so the smaller pans can fill up. Because he might not be able to be successful with that technique in deeper water. So as soon as there's rains, go over to Cat Eye Pan, have a look and see whether that monitor lizard with a notch on the back of its on its tail, if it's able to continue with upskilling itself. This has made me very happy, and I think it's a one-tusk elephant. Looks like it's just one tusk. A familiar elephant face, a beautiful green verdant Aldonio, crisp, lovely day. I was feeling cold and quite tired before the show, but as usual, all of you have picked me up, and now I'm full of energy again. Mindy, you say it's so green. You're not sure if I've seen Tao lately, but it's the greenest you've ever seen it. Then we must see Tao soon. Maybe I'll go have a look now. Because the last time both of us said that Tao was the greenest we'd ever seen it, and that was months ago. So I'll have to go back and check again. Oh, there we go. A little bit of Tao for us to say goodbye. Oh my gosh. It's, Minnie, it's not just the green, it's the bushiness. There's just so much vegetation. This is insane. absolutely lovely to be able to see the landscape reap the benefits of the rainy season that we've had. Hopefully, this keeps us nice and abundant for the winter as well. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being the reason I get to perk up now, even though it's almost 5 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm ready for a whole new workday. But thank you, everybody. It's always a pleasure to have you on board. I won't see you for a little while again, until I think, oh, until about mid-May. But I'll tell you a little secret. I am going on a bit of an expedition to the Amazon to film some really cool things. So I'll tell you all about it when I come back. But for now, thank you and have a good, wonderful day wherever you are in the rest of the world. So goodbye for now.